Welcome to the K-State Pregame Show, brought to you by GoPowerCat.com and sponsored by Coldest.com and The Wooden Cork. Now let's head to the Cats and Dogs studio and your host, Tim Fitzgerald.
Welcome to the K-State Pregame Show. I'm GoPowerCat publisher Tim Fitzgerald, and you give us an hour and we'll try to get you ready for TCU at Kansas State on Saturday at Bill Snyder Family Stadium. But it might take a lot more than an hour to sort out what exactly is going on with these Kansas State Wildcats. They're 2-4 now and 1-2 in conference play after a really disappointing loss at Baylor. It was disappointing not just because they lost, but they honestly should have won that game. It ended up in the favor of the Bears, 35-34. And if you've been following along with our coverage in the post game and throughout the week, yeah, we're blaming the coaches. Were the players perfect? No, they weren't. But over the last 2 weeks, a win at Bill Snyder Family Stadium and that loss in Waco, I think the players have done enough to win games. The decision-making by some of the coaches and some of the things that went onto the field in terms of personnel and play calling and decision-making with managing a lead or a clock were very questionable. Naturally, the coaches disagree. But to disagree with that means it was the players doing, and I don't think they want to say that. No, there's problems. And whether they're admitted or not, they need to be sorted out and sorted out right now. Kansas State is 2-4 heading into this game, and TCU is 4-1. But I don't think the Frogs are that much better than this version of Kansas State. The earlier version, when they lost to Army and played down the wire to North Dakota and kind of went through the motions for most of the game at Arizona, yeah, most of the Big 12 is better than that. But what we saw from the players, from their performance, from their effort, from their buy-in at Waco against Baylor was much better. And in many ways, Baylor and TCU are somewhat comparable. Maybe TCU is a little bit better, but this one is in the bill. And can Kansas State, as a collective, fans, players, coaches, everyone involved, get this done? It's kind of the point of no return for this team. And I know a lot of you are going to scoff at a bowl game with 6 wins or even 7 wins, but it's important. And Big B, Brian Hanley, is standing by, and we'll talk about that. Of course, Brian was the offensive guard, Michael Bishop's left guard, for 2 seasons in 97 and 98. He also, as he mentioned, started his college athletic career at Xavier as a basketball player. It's something we'll touch on too. But I've got to say this team is suddenly good enough to compete in the Big 12 if given the right tools and the right nuanced play calling. Yeah, we've been screaming for the offense to open it up, but when you're managing a 2-touchdown lead, you don't open it up. You try to pick up first downs and perpetuate. And then when you're trying to drive down and rebuild that lead after giving up a really painful touchdown, well, you don't gamble as much as K-State gambled. And you also make sure the best players are on the field. We'll touch on all of that with Big B. And after that, Cole Carmody comes in to take a look at the Frogs. This is a pretty good football team. Their only loss was a disappointing blow a lead in the second half defeat at Arizona State, which is a really good team. So this will be a really good test for K-State. And after the second break, we'll, of course, look at the Big 12 schedule. It's a fun one. It's a really good one, including a huge game involving Arizona State going to Utah. And then we'll hear from Chris Kleman. I consider Chris Kleman a friend, even though I cover him, and we get along very well. But I haven't approved of everything he's been saying in terms of kind of denying things that obviously went on in games. It's almost as if the coaches can't admit wrong, and that's a troubling trait. But he did say something at Monday's press conference that I thought was very notable about leadership and his role in making sure he's the front man for this program and not assessing blame or assigning blame to anyone else. It's about him. And he's right. He is the coach of the coaches, and the coaches that are under him are the coach of the players. But it all starts at the top. So what he said is very important. And I think if you listen to it carefully, it explains why he seems to be deflecting so much, trying not to heap pressure on players or coaches. He's trying to be the front man to take those bullets. And in a way he is, in other ways, Well, I'll leave it up to you. And then, of course, I'll give you my one thing to watch. Haven't even decided right now what that'll be, but by the end of the show, I'll get there. And now let's get cooking with Brian Hanley and his breakdown of Kansas State heading into this game against TCU. And now it is time to talk to Big B about the Big Cats who played better at Baylor. The players did, but they come away with a loss. And Brian, we've covered the ground pretty well about in other podcasts about what went wrong at Baylor. Mm-hmm. What do they got to do to get it right against TCU? Because I think these are pretty comparable teams, but This one's at home.
Yeah, I mean, look, I thought the guys did a good job of being physical last week. I know I talk about physicality all the time, but it's football. I mean, physicality usually wins the day. And when I say usually, because K-State, I think, won the physical battle against Baylor, but they didn't win the game. So they got to do the same thing again. They're very comparable. I think that as far as a quarterback position, I think Josh Hoover is a little more mobile than Sawyer Robertson. I think he might even be a little bit better. But having said that, I still believe Kansas State can win the physicality battle. They can win the line of scrimmage. And then this is another game where you are going to have to win the line of scrimmage because you're not going to be able to limit TCU through the air. Or should I say shut them down? You can limit them, but you're not going to be able to shut them down. So you got to – I mean, the blueprint to beat them was last week. You just can't turn the ball over in key moments, and you got to have your coaches being on the same page and help you versus – I don't want to say hurt or be against them, but they hurt them last week. They did.
Yeah, they did. They did. And they absolutely refused to admit any wrong, which annoys the hell out of me. And I got to be honest here. They got to do better because the players were far from perfect. They didn't tackle as well as they needed to. We certainly saw some breakdowns on pass protection, not picking up blitzes by the young tackles. And you can say Avery Johnson's interception was the key to the game, but I always come back to why was he throwing that pass? Why was he running that play other than his coach told him to? I feel like the coaches let him down, and the coaches have to be better this week.
Yeah, they have to be. They have to be Fitz. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Like I said, it's almost like K-State had never heard a 4-minute offense. You had just thrown the football and got a first down. You're on their 42 with 4:24 to go. Run the football. If you get another first down, that gets you to 2.5 minutes. The game is almost over. Instead, you try to be ultra aggressive in the wrong spot. And that's the thing. It's like there's some people, well, you're screaming that we want the coaches to be aggressive. We do, but they're coaches. They also have to know when to be aggressive and when not to. That's the whole thing. You got to understand when to do it and when not to. And it was not the right play. I don't care what anybody says. And down on the goal line, it wasn't the right play. I don't care what anybody says. And they know it too. So just be better. Continue to get that same effort from the guys this week because the guys, I feel like they think, okay, we believe if we do these things, we're right there. And they are, Fitz. They're close. Nobody's ever going to be perfect. So we're not saying that they're going to be perfect, but they were pretty daggone close. They just need a little help to get over the hump.
Yeah. I mean, everything has its time and place. And I feel like the message sent by the coaches was, look, we could chew up clock here. We could try to pick up first downs. We could be aggressive in the running game and short passing game and win this. But then they don't act that way. They say, we got to get it down the field. We got to score another touchdown. We got to get it in the end zone right now. That shows me a lack of faith that their team's going to get it done the other way. Yeah. Same at the goal line, Big B. What message did you send your offensive line that had been doing a pretty good job in the run blocking area, holding that line of scrimmage? Were they breaking long runs? No. But you're at the goal line to start with before you lose yardage. And you just don't run it again. You said, well, we can't win the line of scrimmage here, so we're going to have to pass it to get in the end zone. No, man. No. Tell that offensive line, this is you, man. Let's go do this. And if they don't, and you have to kick the field goal, at least you ate clock or they had to use up field goals. But the coaches didn't trust them for whatever reason to get that done.
Yeah, it was disheartening because, again, we've been looking. This is the best game the offensive line's play. I mean, you could say UCF's not good. Baylor's pretty good. Now, their defense isn't any good. But to me, this is the best game that the O-line has played. Give them an opportunity, and they took that away from them. And, again, coaches got to help. I get it that they're going to be blitzing. Everything is condensed down on the line of scrimmage. You can still spread guys out down on the goal line. There's nothing that says that you can't come out in 13 personnel, spread people out, or even come out in 12 personnel, but kick a tight end out, split them out. There's nothing saying that you can't do that if you want to. You know, it doesn't just have to be, okay, we're down at the 2. We got to line up in 13 personnel and just run right up there. You do some different stuff. It's okay to do that. And there's just not enough imagination, man. There's just not enough imagination, and they didn't give them an opportunity to win the game. And that's the thing. It's like they just didn't give them an opportunity to win. And again, I'm like you, Fitz. I'm so disappointed in what the coaches are saying. Coach Kleman coming out, well, we had it, and you know, we got stuff, so we decided to throw, and somebody didn't. It's like it's a bunch of excuses that we keep on hearing. And we've heard it all season, from the travel to Dublin and coming back, and guys are tired, and well, Army's so difficult to prepare for. I'm like, I'm over the excuses, man. Just go win and stop telling me why you can't. Just tell me why you should, and then go do it.
Amen. I feel like ending the segment right there because that covers it all for me. But we got more to cover. Yeah, I don't get it. And to Matt Wells's credit, he has gotten a little more aggressive in his play calling. He has opened it up. He has gone back to the quarterback run game a little bit. The Blake Barnett package didn't work necessarily in this game because they did the same things with it. That's my problem is you got to build off of these things.
Yes.
And again, now we've seen Jace Brown in the backfield twice. They both worked. Ran it the same play, different sides, but same play. Well, it's worked both times. Once you try it another time, and then if that doesn't work, once you try it a fourth time, but with a different option to it. Maybe Avery ends up with the ball in his hands. What is this? You establish something that works, and then you don't do anything with that. You don't leverage it in any way. This is where I'm going crazy. It's like, okay, now we're going to run this fun play. Like, remember that triple, it was like a double fake handoff read thing. Yeah. And I love that. I loved it. But why run it once?
Yeah.
And then go, okay, well, I got 6-7 yards. We're done with that.
Yeah.
No, try that at the goal line. They'd be running circles trying to figure out who has the ball. I don't know, Big B. I'm never called plays in the game. I know it's got to be split second decision making. But if you can't do that, and I may not be able to if I had to do it, you shouldn't be doing the job.
Yeah.
You got to be able to.
Also, don't pay you to do it, Fitz. That's number one. You don't get paid to, that's your job. Yeah. You know, so before you go off saying that you couldn't do it, if you were getting paid to do it, you don't know what you could do. Yep. That's my whole thing when people always fight back. Well, you don't do that. And I'm like, well, hold on. Nobody's paying me to do this. If somebody was, and that was my job, you don't know what I would be good at. But having said all of that, yeah, it's almost like the play caller is, we call a play, okay, we'll just call another play. Okay, we'll call another play. And while I haven't been an offensive play caller, I have been in an offensive huddle, and I understand the difference between just calling plays and setting things up, giving teams a certain look to run 4 or 5 different plays out of the same look. That works. Or doing the exact opposite, giving somebody run a different play out of the same look, or running a bunch of different plays. But either way, you've got to mix it up, and we're not doing that. It's like, okay, we're calling a run on first down. Okay, we get 6 yards. Well, then we just call any type of play. It's like, do you build off of something? And that's what good offensive coordinators do. They build off of what you're calling. You call something so you can set something up. Also, you're not always reacting to everything either. Okay, it's 1st and 10. Hey, we lost 3 yards. Man, what do I do now? No, you have a call sheet. If it's 2nd and 13, these are the plays that we can run based out of this. I know I'm making it sound easy, and it's not easy. I promise you it's not easy. But that's the job. If your only job is to figure these things out, and somebody's got to do it. And if you can't, I'm not saying that it's for everybody. Then you got to step aside and let somebody else do it.
Yeah, I had someone respond. How many times do you call plays? I've never called plays, but I also don't get paid 10 times as much as I do now.
Exactly.
That's a big money job in the real world.
Yeah, if you pay me that, let's see if I can do it or not. But yeah, but you don't. So don't ask me that. That's not a valid question.
Yep. Yes, indeed. What would you like to see from the K-State offense in this game?
Again, more aggressive. I thought they were aggressive. I want to see more aggression. I want to see them control the line of scrimmage. Again, this is another opportunity, like I mentioned before, that they can control this line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
They absolutely can do it. TCU's defense is not a very physical defense. It's just not. K-State should be able to run the football again. They're going to be at home. Not that. Now, hold on. I was going to say you don't have to deal with crowd noise. I mean, I don't know how much crowd noise was at Baylor. What was there, 15,000 people there? It was embarrassing. Having said that, yeah, they can run the football this week against TCU. Control the clock. That's what I want to see. And on defense, I want to see more pass rush. For Lord have mercy, if we're supposed to have these guys that can rush the passer, then it's time to do it. And we shouldn't have to blitz 5, 6, 7 guys to get to the quarterback. At some point, guys got to get off of blocks and get to the quarterback because they're going to throw it. They want to throw the football. Well, get after the quarterback. And then when you do, get him on the daggone ground.
Yeah.
Get him on the ground more than anything. Even if you're there a step late, hit him. Whatever. It is what it is. At some point, guys got to start making plays. We can't just continue to say, well, it's the coaches. Well, it's the players. No, it's collectively. Let's come together and figure this thing out.
Yeah, I've been really disappointed in the defensive ends. They're just not getting home.
No.
They're beating blockers, but not off the snap. It takes them a few seconds, and in this conference, the way the offenses are designed, the ball's gone by then.
Yep.
But we saw Baylor, not known for its defense, get home with Avery Johnson. Was he sacked? No, but look, let's be honest. They blew up the play at the goal line that the coaches said was going to work. Well, it didn't work because he didn't block it right. They got home on that, forced him to throw it away. Then on the interception, they got to him. That's why it caused it, because he had someone in his face and he got popped. I don't know. They've got to figure out a way to generate more pressure defensively. And but offensively, look, Big B, you're an offensive lineman.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, when an offensive line hasn't been playing well, and they didn't earlier in the season, you get in a game like they did last week where the offensive line starts to click. Let them click.
Yes.
Run that ball.
Yes.
Let them learn what it's like to dominate. Instead, they turned their head away and said, no, we got to pass it because we don't think you can pick up 2 yards here.
Yeah, it was disheartening, to say the least, Fitz. It was disheartening. But again, it kind of goes back to stop subbing just let the guys get in there, get into a groove, and let the guys play. I'm sick of seeing it, to be honest with you. And I know people are going to be mad because they think that I'm too hard and I get upset. But my problem is that we as fans, me as a former player, I understand football and what works, and we're not doing it. That's my only beef, is that we just aren't doing these things.
Yep.
And I don't know why. It's like, get the best 5, let them play, and leave them in the football game. Don't tell me about how hot it is out there. I don't want to hear that. Unless a guy can't get out there and he can't play, okay, that's something different. Well, it was hot and he was tired. What? I mean, come on, man. Just give me the best 5. Keep them out there the entire football game. And if they're not in shape to play, well, then whose fault is that? Because to me, if guys aren't in shape, that's the coach's fault. Because you can run somebody until they get in shape. You can run them into the ground and get somebody in shape. Trust me, I was one of those people. I hated running. I hate being in shape, and they ran me into the ground. And guess what? They didn't take me out of football games, and not just me. There's a lot of offensive linemen. They just don't take out of games because that's not what you do. You just don't do that, because if you're one of the best five, why am I taking one of my best five off the field for somebody who's not? That doesn't make sense to me.
I know.
So at some point, we've just got to do that and let the chips fall where they may and let the guys do their thing. Just let them do their thing. And if they're not good enough, get somebody else in there.
So I was really wrapped up in the goal line play calling, the goal line designs, what they're trying to accomplish, the clock management, the lead management. And I missed this until it was pointed out. They had backup personnel at almost every skill position except Avery Johnson. They didn't have their frontline guys in a crucial game-winning series of plays. They're resting their best receivers and Dylan Edwards. What in the living heck is going on with that? That is inexcusable to me.
I don't know. There's no answer.
There is no answer.
Because it's kind of like on the 3rd and 7. Oh yeah, our best defensive end. We've got them resting. We've got to rest them. And I just don't understand these things that go on. Maybe there's a method to the madness, Fitz. Maybe there's something that we just don't understand. But what I would know is that if I'm on the 2-yard line and if I score a touchdown here, I can pretty much put the game away. And then I don't have my best football players on the field. I mean, I know you've said this before, it's coaching malpractice. I just don't know what else to say. I don't understand it. But I don't know. At some point, we've got to be better. Everybody's just got to be better, coaches included, and stop making the excuses.
So you think Josh Hoover is a bigger threat than Sawyer Robertson as a quarterback?
Yep.
Does he have the same kind of weapons?
I don't know if he has the same type, but he's got good ones.
Yeah,
he's got good weapons. And the reason that I think he's better, Fitz, is because he's more mobile. Like, he is more of a threat to move. He can manipulate the pocket better. He can run the football better. He's a more mobile, a better athlete at the quarterback position than Sawyer Robertson is. I don't know if he's necessarily, I mean, depending on what you're looking at, again, I'm not an NFL scout, but to me, I would take Hoover over Robertson just for that factor. Both of them are really good, but he's more athletic and more mobile, which is problems because when we got to Robertson, he got away from us.
Yeah.
And Hoover is much better athlete than he is.
Is this someone you want to spy?
Probably. I would. I wouldn't let him get out. But to spy, you're taking somebody out of coverage, which means you got to get pressure. You got to get pressure. And that's the whole thing. It's like you can spy and do that, and it can be effective, but then everybody else you got to get home. Because if you're not going to do that and you take a guy out of coverage, he will pick us apart. There is no ifs, ands, or buts. He's probably going to do that anyway. You can limit him, but he's probably going to have his way anyway. But now you take a guy out of coverage to spy, and then you have no pass rush where you're asking for trouble.
You're right. You put a spy out there. He's not covering anyone. He's waiting for the quarterback to run, and you don't get pressure on him.
Right.
He's going to just sit there and nail you. This game scared me a lot more than it has recently. That makes sense. Yep. Look, TCU kind of went through the motions last week. Let's be honest. They're playing Colorado. They're still licking their wounds from a bad loss or a painful loss, not a bad one, but a disappointing loss. And I didn't think they looked that good, but that doesn't mean that's going to be the team K-State sees. It never is. It's all every week is self-contained. But what is your overall thought on TCU? And I'll bring Cole Carmody in after the break to really dig into him. But you cover the Big 12. You pay attention really well. What's your overall thought on how good this TCU team is?
You know, I still think TCU is in an echelon that could possibly get to Arlington for a Big 12 title game. Their downfall is their physicality. They're not physical on the lines of scrimmage. They have excellent skill position players. They got an outstanding quarterback, and they're actually not terrible in the back end. but their problem is they're not that physical. And they've been working on it because last year it was worse. They've gotten better, but when they face some good competition, like against Arizona State, yeah, the physicality went right out the door. They tried to do it, and they were holding their own for about a quarter and a half, and then after that, it was all downhill after that. And that's the difference. But I think they're a very good football team. They're talented. So if you were going to match up rosters, they have a better roster than K-State. But that doesn't mean that they're a better football team than K-State. So we'll see. I just think if K-State leans into physicality, they're better. And that's the difference. And I've said that over and over on other stuff that we've done, is that K-State has always gotten by because they were a more physical team, even when they weren't the most talented team. It's how they used to beat Oklahoma, how they used to beat Texas, is because we were just as physical, if not more physical, than what they were.
Yeah, I agree with all that. And with that said, K-State's 2-4. It's the midseason mark. They're at halfway mark of the regular season. They have to go 4-2 to get bowl eligible. Losing to TCU makes it hard to find those wins because now you got to go 4-1, and you got Tech and Utah still coming. My point is, as I've had fans tell me, well, if you're 6-6 or 7-5, what's it matter to go to a bowl? You want to explain why that's important?
I mean, it's just are you bowl eligible? Or are you not?
Yeah.
And I mean, and people look at that. They don't really, they look at records, especially recruits and things of that nature. They look at records, but did you make a bowl? And it's a big slap in the face and a huge black mark if you do not. If you're not good enough to qualify for a bowl, because I'm under the impression, or not under the impression, but I'm one of those people, Fitz, that I think you should go back to where you had to fight to get to a bowl game. 8 wins. You don't have 8 wins, you ain't getting in. They need to shrink the number of bowl games down, especially since they don't have the meaning that they did before. Before, bowl games meant something. They don't anymore. Whatever fault that's a different conversation. But yeah, it's very important to say that you're bowl eligible and that you go if this is the standard of what we're doing now, because I can remember back teams would win 8 games. That was when you only played 11. You win 8 games. Some teams didn't make it. It's like, no, not good enough. So, that's getting a little crazy out there, but it is what it is. But yes, the stigma of not being bowl eligible would be disastrous for this program. Absolutely disastrous.
And also, there's always that practice time. But also, I feel like in this period of such roster volatility with players transferring in and out, it's good to go play a game with the dudes that weren't invested and want to transfer.
Correct.
Go play that game. Let everyone, even if you get your butt kicked, let them get out there and show their stuff. See who's in and who's out. I think it's really important. And I'll say this, for every person who says going to a bowl game with 6 wins is meaningless, would bitch a lot louder if they went 5-7 and didn't go to a bowl.
It's also somebody who's never played in a bowl game too.
Yeah.
So, that's somebody that they say that. And I'm like, well, have you ever played in a bowl game? Did you go? I go, because if you haven't, then you can't tell me that a kid's experience of going to a bowl game means nothing. It may not mean nothing to you as a fan, and that's fine. But as kids going to a bowl game, that means something to them. They get treated well. It's another football game to play. So to say it's just meaningless, and it might be meaningless to you as the fan and I get it. I'm a fan too.
Yeah.
And they didn't get to the destination that I wanted them to get to, but it's definitely not meaningless to the kids that go. The ones that actually go and participate. There's some kids that aren't going to go. Hey, we get to a bowl game. Nope, I'm out. I'm transferring. I'm doing whatever. Okay. But the ones that do, it means something to them. And at the end of the day, isn't that what this is about? Isn't it about the kids, the players, more important than anybody else? Isn't it what it's about, or it should be?
Yep, I agree. Plus, if they slip far enough in the bowl picture, they might end up the Frisco Bowl, and you got a home game, brother.
That's right.
You got no travel involved. You get the home game.
I mean, I went last year to the Frisco Bowl.
Who was it last year?
I can't. It was West Virginia.
That good, huh?
Yeah, it was West Virginia.
Like there was a decent team in there.
Remember, I probably watched a minute and a half, and I was sitting inside the stadium. But it was a friend of mine I hadn't seen since I went to Xavier, and he was at the game. He was in town on business, and he was like, "Hey, you want to go to the bowl game?" I'm like, "Sure, okay." So
love it.
But yeah, it's important, people. It's important. I know we would all be disappointed, and we would all be frustrated, myself included, if that was the case. But it's just the stigma of not going. And Fitz, you mentioned it, the extra practice time too. I mean, all of that stuff matters. It just matters as a program.
That is Brian Hanley, former Kansas State offensive lineman, getting us prepared for the K-State side of the ball, mostly, as K-State takes on TCU Saturday afternoon at the Bill. It's not going to be hot. Everyone should be nice and comfortable. As we record, forecast high for Saturday is sunny and 70. It's like living in the biodome. I'll take it. I will take it. After this break, we bring in Cole Carmody to dig into the Frogs. That sounds awful. We'll look at TCU a little bit more right after this break.
Looking for the rarest bottles at the best price? Experience the best alcohol delivery service. At Wooden Court, we have your favorite bottles in stock and ready to be delivered to your door.
Visit woodencork.com and use the code LIFEOFFITZ for your special discount.
Welcome back to the show as we continue the process of previewing TCU at Kansas State Saturday afternoon, 2:30 p.m. at the Bill. And now to break down the Horned Frogs from Fort Worth, there's your own Cole Carmody. Hello, sir. The Frogs are a hard one for me to figure out. I thought they were really good. And then last week, they just kind of looked ho-hum against Colorado. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, my initial thoughts on this team, Fitz, are they do not have the same ceiling that Baylor has, but their floor is much higher. Okay. I feel like you know what you're going to get when you watch TCU. They're going to be in probably a pretty close game, and there's a good chance that they're going to find a way to win. Their offense is going to make plays. Their defense is solid. The overall note that's funny as I prepare for this segment, the main thing that kept sticking out to me was the offense for TCU is not as good as Baylor. They're close, but they're not as good. The defense for TCU is better than Baylor. They're not a ton better, but they're better. And so in the end, I think, of course, it just always works out like this. After K-State, you know who plays Baylor and TCU. So we're going to find out who the better team is, but very, very similar opponent to last week in Baylor for sure.
Yeah, it is. And I kind of think it's going to go the same direction in terms of being a really close game. The location of the game should be in K-State's favor, but TCU's played some pretty good football on the road despite that loss at Arizona State.
Yeah, they really have. And that was a game against Arizona State that they should have won. Even up until the end of the game, they had a chance. Josh Hoover threw an interception right at the end of the game. They had some costly turnovers in that one. That's their only loss on the season. They are 4-1. And their most recent game against Colorado, Fitz, I think I came away from that game more surprised about TCU than Colorado. Obviously, when we do the show against Colorado, it'll be the last game of the season. We'll probably be a lot different for both teams at that point. But I came into that game. I want to say the spread was like 14.5. I came into that game thinking that TCU would just blow them out of the water, and neither team looked good at all. And don't get it twisted. That 28-14 final score is not indicative of what the outcome was. They threw a touchdown pass on 4th down with less than a minute to go in the game. It was a very kind of strange decision because all they have to do is kick a field goal and go up by 2 scores. And if that's an incomplete pass, Colorado gets the ball back. There's not much time left, but they gambled and they got it. And so they won by 2 scores. But for all intents and purposes, that game against the Buffaloes was a 1-score game and a tight one. So there's a lot to look at with this team, but they're definitely not the 4-1 juggernaut that I think it might look like they would be after that game against North Carolina week 1.
Well, let's start with the guy that is the position that's usually the star of the show, and that's quarterback. Saw a really good one last week in Sawyer Robertson. Josh Hoover might be better? Compare the two.
They're different. I think right now, Josh Hoover is a more of a college quarterback than a pro. Sawyer Robertson is more of a pro than a college quarterback. I think that maybe I'm completely wrong on this, Fitz, but come NFL time, I think you look at the size that Sawyer Robertson has, the arm strength that he has, and that is more of a projectable quarterback at the next level. But they're both really good. And Josh Hoover has the experience. I want to say the last time TCU played in Manhattan, he was the quarterback, and he was just kind of this gunslinger freshman quarterback that nobody really knew much about. And he's been really good this year. 15 interceptions, not 15 interceptions, 15 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. Last week, he was 23 of 33 with 4 touchdowns, 275 yards. Not much of a runner, very similar to Sawyer Robertson in that sense. He's more of a scrambler. And so It feels like every quarterback K-State's played this season, whether it be Sawyer Robertson or Noah Fafita, throw him in there, or Josh Hoover. These are guys who like to hang in the pocket if they can, but Fitz, that offensive line for TCU is decimated by injury right now, and in general, it is not very good.
Yeah, Big B kind of felt like he's a guy that's probably going to have to tuck the ball and run once in a while because that protection hasn't been there, and he has a little bit more foot speed than Sawyer Robertson. So that is something that has actually given K-State trouble. They turned Noah Fafita, of all quarterbacks, into a runner. That guy hasn't done that in his career. And in fact, I think K-State gave up his career long in rushing. Mm-hmm. What kind of weapons is Hoover working with on that Frog offense?
Well, you would first look to the running back position, and obviously that's typically where you want to look for first if you're looking at an offense. And Kavarian Barnes is the leading rusher. He's got 204 yards, but I can tell you right now, Fitz, that this offense is not going to be keen on running the football. Last week, they averaged less than 3 yards a carry against Warren Sapp's vaunted Colorado Buffalo defensive front. I say that with sarcasm. But in total, on the season, they're giving up 3.9 yards, or they're averaging 3.9 yards a rush. This isn't an offensive line that likes to run the football. They don't want to run the football. They have no desire. I'm sure Big B completely agrees with me. They have no desire to want to run the football. This is a team that wants to sit back and chuck it, but they have to be able to run the football because I think that in order for TCU to win this game, they're going to have to be at least a little two-dimensional. Anytime you go on the road, it's very hard to win a game when you're one-dimensional. But they do have some really good receivers. And honestly, Fitz, my favorite player in the Big 12, he was last year. He was with Houston. Now he's with TCU. His name is Joseph Manjack, and he is probably the least intimidating person you've ever seen on a football field. We joke that Quay Moss has no gloves on the defensive side, but Joseph Manjack, he doesn't wear sleeves. He doesn't wear high socks. He looks like he literally just gets out of bed. He puts on his cleats, he puts on his pads, and he goes out there. No gloves, no eye black, no nothing. I love it. Joseph Manjack, he's a weapon for them. So is Jordan Dwyer, but the leading receiver for this team, averaging over 22 yards per reception and 5 touchdowns, is Eric McAllister. He had a really good game on Saturday, a big play threat. K-State's going to have to contain him, but he's got three receivers that he will throw the ball to that are all really, really solid options.
In hindsight, looking back at that Baylor game, it's kind of remarkable K-State held up as well as it did defensively because it didn't get much pressure on the quarterback. That is something they've got to do. And when they do it, they can't let Hoover did what Robertson did, which was evade them all but one time. They got to get him on the ground and they got to make him uncomfortable. Is K-State capable of doing that?
I think so. I put this also in my notes at the end that I think that this K-State defense needs to bring some more pressure. As much as you want to be able to get home with 4, it's okay to dial up a blitz every once in a while and see if your defensive backs can win in coverage, because the reality of the situation is when K-State gets beat, a lot of the times it's because of their safeties. It's really not from the cornerbacks. And so if you go man coverage across the board and you bring the house, I truly believe the odds of getting to the quarterback are better than the odds of giving up a really, really long pass. I would love to see K-State dial up some pressure because along with the difference between Sawyer Robertson and Josh Hoover Fitz is Josh Hoover's a little bit smaller. He's a little bit easier to bring to the ground. This offensive line has given up a fair amount of sacks. I believe I wrote down 10 sacks this season they've given up. So that might not seem like a lot, but it's about 2 or 3 per game depending upon opponent. So I think K-State's going to be able to get to the quarterback. It's just going to be a matter of, can you limit the big plays? And this is a team that wants to push the ball down the field, and I'm not as worried about this offense because of the offensive line. And throwing the fact here, Fitz, they're going to be without their left tackle. The starting left tackle for TCU now done for the season, so they're going to be breaking in a new tackle at that spot. Not going to be easy. I think a lot of it depends on the availability of Tobias Nsami. He came out of that game against Baylor and did not come back in. We'll find out with the injury report what his status is, but they're going to have to get pressure if they want to find a way to limit this Horned Frog offense. Indeed,
they will. And flipping it over to the other side, Kansas State offense showed some signs of life. They made mistakes. We don't want to get into the play calling again and some of the decisions made, but I thought I saw a sign of hope with the offense. But what in the world are they doing with Dylan Edwards? I mean, it almost looks like they kept him out because I thought Joe Jackson played well, but I don't get it. It almost feels like there was something else going on for the reason why they held him out.
If he's not healthy enough to play, then he shouldn't be available, or he shouldn't play. That's kind of where I'm at with Dylan Edwards, and there's no doubt when he's in the lineup, he's a difference maker. And even when he played in limited action, you could tell he was one missed tackle away from breaking off a few big runs. And the difference this week between Baylor and TCU is, as I said at the top, this TCU defense is better. I don't know how substantially better they are. You look at their points per game, you look at their numbers. I don't know. One thing that stands out, Fitz, is that the opponents have ran more plays this season than the Horned Frogs have. And I think that's kind of a team stat. And you look in and you really see who they've played, and it's not too surprising. But once again, it's the ability to run the football, which is why some of these games have been close for TCU. They are pretty solid in the secondary. But you're right. Dylan Edwards has to be a key. If he's not available, then he should not play, period, point blank, because he takes away reps from a guy like a Devon Rice, from a guy like Joe Jackson, who had his best game of his career. If Dylan Edwards can play, they're going to be able to use him because this TCU defense, it gives up its fair share of rushing yards.
We thought based on the availability report that we would see the complete receivers. We didn't. Bradley only played a few snaps, but Jace Brown was out there running around, and I just want to see Avery Johnson and this offense operate with a full arsenal of weapons. They haven't done that all year, and correct me if I'm wrong, K-State's offense could really give this TCU defense some issues if they play to their personality and have all of their dudes.
Yeah, I agree. And you go back and you look at that Colorado game, Fitz. It was 14-14 at halftime, and Caden Salter threw 3 interceptions in the first half for Colorado. 3 interceptions, and it was a tie game. Colorado went into the halftime feeling like, oh my God, how the heck is this game tied? Right? So I'll give TCU some credit for that on the defensive end, but I think that also kind of goes into why you look at the play distribution. This team struggles to get off the field on a consistent basis. They've kind of, at least through the first few games, lived off those turnovers. They have 6 interceptions on the season. 3 of those came last game, and they have 4 fumble recoveries. So last week, Baylor struggled to turn teams over. This week, I think that's what kind of thrives with TCU. And if K-State can take care of the ball, you're right. They're going to be able to move the football on this TCU team. Obviously, they have some stars. I did want to mention this, Fitz. Nnamdi Obiizer, Chidi's brother, is on the field and at linebacker for TCU, so that's always one to keep an eye on. Bud Clark, a guy who feels like he's been there for forever, is kind of the heart and soul of that Horned Frog defense. But again, nobody really stands out. This TCU defense isn't crazy, but it's just okay. And right now, if K-State can be a good offense, good is always better than just okay.
That's so true. Special teams, another big failure on the special teams part. I don't even necessarily blame the players. They try to kick a field goal that Chris Kleman admitted that he was outside of his range and into the wind. I still am trying to decipher that, why they didn't go ahead and run a play or run a fake or something. But special teams it wasn't that great in the game at Baylor. I don't know that outside of the block field goal into the game, if there was a emphatic play that cost them a lot. But again, attention to detail in this area of the game just has not been there all season long.
No, it hasn't, and they're going to have some opportunities. You go and you look at TCU's special teams, and they're 3 of 5 on field goals this season. I found it strange. They've only attempted 5 field goals. But after doing a little bit more of a deep dive, you can find out that they're on their second kicker. The first kicker was 1 for 3. The next guy's been 2 for 2, and they've all been closer kicks. So this TCU team wants to score touchdowns. That is their MO. So if you can force them into some field goal opportunities, I actually think K-State has a really good chance to maybe not get a block, but get off the field. And you look at their touchback percentage, getting into the weeds here, but K-State's going to have an opportunity to return some kicks. On the season, TCU has less than a 60% touchback percentage, meaning essentially just over 1 out of every 2 kicks you get a chance to get a return with. And that's going to be big for K-State, because last week we saw Montario Elston back there, the true freshman, return some kicks, fumbled on the field, overturned in the booth. It'll be interesting to see if they put him back out there if Bryce Nordberg can't go. But again, I would love to see a Devon Rice, because that has been a guy who we've seen return kicks. He's been back there. Make him the primary returner and let him go. This is a kid who's been really good in the past at this in high school. He's shown some flashes this season of having some burst. I would love to see Devon Rice back there, but K-State's going to have a chance to make an impact in special teams. If they can get some good field position, if they could maybe even get a touchdown, Fitz, I know that's calling for a lot, but they're going to have an opportunity to return some kicks and get some stops on this Baylor special teams unit with the kicking. So it'll be interesting to see. But yeah, I think K-State actually might have the special teams advantage here.
You think K-State gets this done?
I've gone back and forth with this, and I said that if they beat Baylor, I was 100% going to pick K-State to win this game. But right now, again, I don't know if they get it done. You're asking me, do they get it done? I'm going to answer. I don't know. I think they can. How about that?
Yeah.
I think they can. I'm not going to pick them to win right now. We're recording this on Wednesday. Maybe by Saturday, my tune will change. But I think that the TCU offense is just really good, and K-State hasn't shown the ability to win a close game yet. Now, in fairness to TCU, neither have they. They lost their only close game of the season to Arizona State. And I think it's going to come down to what does this defense do against this TCU offense? If you can limit them and force them to kick field goals, you can win. But right now, I'm leaning TCU just because I think that their offense is just going to be a little bit too much to handle. And unfortunately for K-State, we need to see more of Dylan Edwards in order for this running game to get going for me to feel comfortable about picking them to beat the Horned Frogs.
I agree with all that, and I feel the same way. I got to make up my mind what I think of this game, and I'm not there quite yet. It's Cole Carmody. He's our football analyst that covers recruiting and scouts the opposition for us. And, of course, he'll be hosting the PowerCat postgame podcast with Big B right after, immediately following this game with TCU. Actually, there might be a little setup time in there because he has to relocate in that press box. But, Cole, thank you very much. I look forward to hearing what you and Big B have to say on Saturday evening. That's it for this segment of the K-State pregame show. On the other side, we look at the Big 12 schedule, and it is a fun one. And then we hear something very interesting from Chris Kleman as we come down the home stretch of this week's show. We'll be right back.
From the house to the car to your tailgate, Coldest.com offers elite insulated tumblers. Imagine yourself standing in the football stadium's parking lot, and you want to keep your drink cold or hot. Coldest gets the job done. They're leak-proof, come in numerous designs and sizes, holding up to 46 ounces. And here's the best part. With your Coldest mug, no one needs to know what you're really drinking. Coldest.com. Use the code LIFEOFFITZ for a 10% discount.
Now let's take a look at the schedule in the Big 12 for Week 7 of the 2025 season. There are 7 conference games this weekend, starting with a pair of 11 a.m. games on Saturday. All times are central. First up at 11, UCF travels to Cincinnati to test the 4-1 Bearcats, who are 2-0 in Big 12 play. The game is on ESPN. Also at 11, 4-1 Houston heads to Oklahoma State to face the collapsing Cowboys on TNT. At 2:30 p.m., Iowa State drops into Boulder to face Colorado on ESPN, and TCU visits Manhattan to take on K-State on Fox. There are 3 night games. Kansas going to Texas Tech to collide with the 5-0 and 9th-ranked Red Raiders. That game is also on Fox. BYU and Arizona face off at 7 p.m. in Tucson on ESPN, and the big game of the weekend is the nightcap. Your Big 12 game of the week features a pair of 4-1 teams colliding at Rice-Eccles Stadium in Salt Lake City, with 21st-ranked Arizona State taking on Utah, a team worthy of a ranking but needing a signature win such as this. The showdown kicks off at 9:15, so grab the caffeine and dial up ESPN to watch the action. That's it for your preview of this weekend's Big 12 football action. Now let's return to Fitz in the Cats and Dogs studio.
Welcome back to the show. That was your preview of what's going on around the Big 12 this week. A great schedule of games as we hit full schedule for the most part, and we're playing all Big 12 games. It's a fun time of year. This conference is a blast to cover. It's a blast to watch, and there are a lot of good games again this week. Now let's hear from Chris Kleman. This is often a more lengthy interview segment, but he had one answer to a question from our colleague at the Kansas City Star and Wichita Eagle, Kellis Robinette. And I think you need to hear the answer. You can read into it whatever you want, but I hear an explanation for why he's deflecting some of the blame, some of the troubles onto himself, because it's his job as head coach. And after Chris Kleman, we'll get you your one thing to watch. And I think it's kind of important. Here's Kansas State football coach Chris Kleman in our interview segment.
I'm the leader of this whole thing. And leadership is unifying people. It's not how much we can tear people down. And, leadership isn't always sunny and 70. It's a struggle. And I know this, those kids want to win. We've seen the last 2 weeks, all of us, how much we've improved and how we're doing things with more energy, more physicality and stuff. Doesn't guarantee success, but it gives us an opportunity to be successful. And I saw a different road team at Baylor than I saw at Arizona. And that gives me some belief and confidence in we're doing things the right way. Now we've just got to make some final adjustments as coaches and as players to get over the hump. But I've got to be, and I'm going to be the rock for this team. And I'll take all the hits and all the bullets and all the things because that's my job, and I have no problem doing that because if those kids keep laying it on the line, I'll live with the result because I know the result's going to change. I know it's going to continue to get better. But, for me to come in here and be all sulky and, boy, poor us, that didn't get it done. And I tell the guys all the time, whether we're 11-0, whether we're 8-4, whether we're 2-4, I can't change as a leader of this operation. I can't change so that when these kids are dads and their husbands and they're fighting for their own job in life, if I don't put up a good front, how can I expect those guys to do the same in 10 years and 15 years when adversity is really hard and they're dealing with their family and dealing with a kid that's sick or dealing with something? If I can't deal with this with a positive light, and I'm as mad as anybody is, but it's a friggin' football game. There's a lot of worse things going on in life. And I need to be that face to say, guys, we're going to fight through this and we're going to get through this together because adversity makes cowards of us all. And we're not going to be cowards on this. We're going to face this head on.
That was Kansas State coach Chris Kleman in our interview segment. Now let's take this sucker down the home stretch and get you ready finally for K-State and TCU. It's a 2:30 kick at Bill Snyder Family Stadium as we record this. Mentioned earlier in the show, the forecast is 70 degrees, sunny, and limited wind. And I am all about that. Should be a beautiful day at the Bill. I hope you can make it to the game. And here's the one thing I want you to watch. And I know it would seem obvious with my criticism throughout the week to say, watch the coaches and how they're play calling, but that's too vague. That's just too much of into the weeds. Here's your one thing to watch: the point of attack. Kansas State has to get back to dominating the line of scrimmage. It's not something they've done throughout the year, but certainly the offensive line did a better job of that at Baylor. Maybe the defensive line didn't get enough pressure on the quarterback, and as Brian Hanley and Cole Carmody both mentioned, you got to get to Josh Hoover, the TCU quarterback. You have to make him uncomfortable, and that means the defensive line must win the line of scrimmage also. If you can run the ball and pressure the quarterback from the two sides of the line, you probably are going to win this game. But last week, the players seemed to do everything they needed to do to win a football game at Baylor, and they didn't. So now let's hope it all falls in place, because at 2-4 and 1-2 in the conference, there's no time to wait. There's not many more wins out there, and this, being in Manhattan, is certainly one of them. I hope you can make it to the Bill. Last time, I didn't think there would be a big crowd, and it exceeded 53,000, which has not been done very often at Bill Snyder Family Stadium. Can you do it again? It's going to be a beautiful day, perfect tailgate weather, and I really do hope that I will see you at the Bill.
Thank you for watching the K-State Pregame Show. Make sure you're subscribing to this YouTube channel, and please share your thoughts in the comments. Also, please support our sponsors, Coldest.com and WoodenCork.com, and remember the code LifeOfFits for your discount. This has been a Go Power Cat and Spirit Street production.